Alright, so the other day I was hanging out with this cat, and I guess because I knew the origin of IPAs, Indian Pale Ales, he figured that I was intelligent or something. So he chucked me this, I guess, what to him was a serious mind fuck, and it is partially. And I'm chucking it at you. And so what he said was, aside from this will haunt you to the rest of your days and so on and so forth, the premise of the mindfuck was that how can you duplicate a random action? You can't, you know. My first response was to look at it philosophically. And philosophically, yeah, random is only random if it's being observed and quantified by somebody involved in the situation. And so it's very, very simple to look at it in the sense of pulling yourself out of the situation and only looking at it theoretically, not being part of the situation. If you're not there, you can't quantify it. It can't be a random act. So randomness is only random if you're there and you decide it is such. And so the question itself becomes nullified in that sense. And you know, of course, his response was that, you know, you can't just play with words. And I'll get to that in a second. So obviously I responded, you know, with simple, I guess, logic. You know, if you have the situation, it's obviously defined by certain parameters. Those parameters will dictate whether or not any particular action can be duplicated. Because randomness in itself has limits. Our universe has limits. Time has limits. Everything we know does have limits, no matter how massive they may be, you know, or how far past our comprehension they may be. There are still limits. And so if you're looking at it as let's say an experiment, you have to define parameters, and within those parameters you have to say, okay, there's, you know, 5 billion possibilities. Try to duplicate this one. Well, within the experiment, is there a possibility for duplication of any one of those possibilities? In which case 5 billion is not the actual number, it's an exponent of that number. And so, that being said, it can be quantified. It can always be quantified. How do you replicate a random action? It's not really that complicated. A random action will replicate itself if it is in a system that allows for that. But that's not really what you should take away from it, I don't think. I think that I was onto something right at the beginning, wherein randomness is only random if it's being observed by someone. And we observe things within our limited time space, and so we see things as random. Whereas on the scale of infinity, and within the parameters that we cannot define, that we can't even comprehend, randomness is simply the mechanism that makes things be. And so, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It is a cool question, you know. And I was going somewhere with this. I know I was. But that being said, okay, so I'm going back to when he said, you can't just play with words. And so after having gone through several different discourses with this cat, I basically brought us back to the point that the very fact that you say random, that's playing with words. You put a definition to something intangible. You have a word for it. This is out of my control. This is almost immaterial in a sense. It will just happen. And I had to make him realize that when I attack something philosophically, when I say that you have to participate for it to be random, otherwise it's just an occurrence. It's not playing with words. As much as I love playing with words, it's not playing with words, because words are what defined the parameters of the question to begin with. And words are literally, they're the only thing that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Literally. It's our ability to communicate with speech. And so, all that to say, words are really cool. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, it's kind of like a cool exercise in like getting to know yourself. If you take 5 words to describe yourself, first words that come to your mind, write down 5, and then take those 5 words and bring them to a thesaurus, and look in the thesaurus and see if there is any synonym that more accurately describes you as an individual. And I've done this, and it's kind of cool, because it almost shows us the difference between our conscious self and our ego. Our explanation of our body's actions to our conscious mind, which is our ego, it has a way of defining itself, oftentimes with buzzwords, oftentimes with words that have been projected on us within a specific context that we accept and then almost live up to without ever even caring about it. So you take those 5 words and then you bring them to a thesaurus, and you look at the different synonyms, and suddenly you'll find that there's many more words that more aptly describe you as a being, that you actually feel relate to you better. And I think that's kind of a cool test to see the difference between your ego and the way you perceive yourself and what you actually are. Is that a tangent?